Hi, everyone. Thank you and welcome to RoboMQ's June webinar. The main topic today is governance, risk, and compliance are the strategic end goals of an organization starting an identity management initiative. Often the starting point of this journey is the JML, so joiner, mover, and lever automation, which is the key operational objective and the most tangible benefit in ROI. In our previous webinars we've covered how hire to retire excels in lifecycle management, identity, entitlement, access, and resource provisioning. In this webinar, Brahm Gupta, our head of product, will cover broader entitlement management or role-based access control, access request, access certification, identity cloud, and analytics, and how it all works together to meet governance and compliance goals. There has been a massive investment in the product in the last 18 to 24 months, which Brahm will also touch upon during this presentation today. And we will also have a Q&A section following Brahm's presentation. So please ask any questions you have in the chat, and we'll answer those at the tail end of the webinar. With that, I will turn it over to Brahm.
Thank you, Jordan. Before I get going, one quick question to the team. When I'm sharing the screen, do you see that your picture is also in there? Okay, so then let me change the settings so that I'm only sharing the screens that I want to go over, which will need a little bit of switch, but better than showing each other. Okay, perfect. Can you all see my screen?
You're good.
Okay, thank you very much and happy Friday. Thank you for joining at this afternoon, which is, okay, for East Coast afternoon, other places it may be different time. So as Jordan was talking about governance, risk and compliance, it's at the heart of the cybersecurity compliance and mitigating risk, having a better security posture and so on. So we'll cover on this topic mainly. And then in this topic, what we have done is we have, like recently, as Jordan has talked about, we added a lot of features around access, request, certification, compliance, and reporting. In fact, there's been a massive investment into the product that I'm going to get into the details of. I'll also get into a lot of new features added and how the product has come together. I know we have been missing in action, or this has been a webinar after many months. But that time we were very busy trying to put together these new features and capabilities that we have added in the product. So let me get into the product and let me get into the presentation and go over it. I mean, I have to show it, but you don't have to read it. That's a disclaimer about our forward-looking statements. And as we are adding these features, we have officially become a full IGA. We are adding features which are very much in line with what you see with the enterprise IGAs like SailPoint, Saviynt, Omada, and other IGAs that you see in the market. But again, there's a difference between us and them. We are very much focused for the mid-market, and we have built this product which is focused for the mid-market, and it is designed around the attributes that are valued and expected by the mid-market. Like, for example, you don't have to have expensive professional services and hire some consulting companies like Deloitte and Accenture, Infosys, etc., to implement identity management. You can do it all with the UX. And with that kind of focus with the mid-market, making sure that there's a low total cost of ownership and you are able to start getting the benefit as soon as possible. We have designed attribute like no code intuitive UX. It is designed for self-service. It is also designed around implementing the identity best practice. So you don't have to think, what should I do? Or it's not something where you would say, for example, take SailPoint or Saviynt and say, okay, let me configure the product to meet my needs. Rather, it had multiple options available, and those options are some of the best practices that industry uses. Even with that, full no-code, self-service, intuitive, I know it's a very difficult design principle for our design team to build a product around it. But with that, we also make sure that we provide full IGA features. All the features that are typical of identity, governance, and administration market are available on the product. And now I have a big announcement to make. In Q1 2026, we had been working for last 18 to 24 months, and we have launched major product enhancement, adding a lot of governance and compliance capabilities, which were beyond the JML lifecycle management, identity provisioning, entitlement provisioning, resource asset provisioning and observability, which we always had in the product for last couple of years. We've added a lot of features and capability, and now we are classified as a full IGA. When I say full IGA, it's by the definition that Gartner has in their market guide. So based on that, we have all the functional capabilities that are expected of a full IGA, and we cover them. And I'm going to get into each of most of them in the detail as much as possible within this webinar. So if you look at this block of capabilities that we have, previously we were focusing primarily on identity lifecycle and integrations were there. There was role management, there were observability. We have added features like access request, which is you can request access and entitlements, which are beyond birthright. Because identity lifecycle focuses on birthright, something that you get because of who you are in the company, what are your attributes, and so on. Then we have access certification or attestation feature, which is the typical cybersecurity requirement. Access provisioning was always there in the product. This is a SIM gateway or access provisioning that we have. Entitlement, role, and policy management. We did have entitlement management, but we've added a lot of capabilities on this side, which we're going to cover. Analytics, reporting, and audit, existing capabilities, which has been significantly enhanced. And just like everyone else, and the technology, the way it is moving, and the capabilities that are being available in the market, we have invested, and we are continuing to invest a lot on the AI, machine learning. And as you will see later in the presentation, the roadmap that we have is significantly driven with AI and machine learning initiative. We also launched for our ServiceNow customer, we also launched Hire to Retire IG on ServiceNow, which is basically a companion application where we leverage the workflow capabilities, service catalog capabilities, capability to delegate tasks and provide the observability on the ServiceNow, along with the core IGA, which is identity, entitlement, and access provisioning engine of RoboMQ, Hire to Retire. So with the hire to retire IG on service now, you get the benefit of best of the both world. You get the workflow capabilities, you get the task assignment capability. You don't have to walk away from what you have already done on service now in terms of the service catalog, application catalog, resources, assets, the complex workflow, assignment rule, approval processes, as well as observability, because we push all the data around identity and whatever we offer on hire to retire standalone into ServiceNow. However, behind the scene, you may not have to really look into hire to retire, but behind the scene, hire to retire engine runs and provide the IG capability. So that's a very interesting take on offering capabilities on ServiceNow. Now, the often what I would say that GRC or governance risk and compliance is more of a maturity. Most of the customers that come to us, they start with more of the operational needs like GML automation, making sure identities are created, making sure if there's a superior first day of experience so that somebody who joins in has everything set for the day one, making sure role-based access control are placed. As people are moving from one role to another role, do they have the right privileges? And are there other privileges removed so that you have need to know basis access control? Similarly, termination. Now, these are the core direct cost advantage, basic maturity, basic operational effectiveness, and repeatability that companies look for when they come talk to us. Now, as our customers mature into their identity management practices, governance, risk, and compliance is a final maturity. Or this is where they want to go. Once things are in place, they want to make sure things are in place, make sure you can monitor them, you can manage them, you can put the policies, you can put the check, you can identify the violation, you can identify entitlement sprawl, you can identify over entitlement, people having toxic combinations, somebody who's a sysadmin having access to financial system. Such kind of things is where we go in. And investing in governance, risk, and compliance, I know there's not a direct, immediate as you invest, get the benefit, but you get a lot of benefit in terms of the risk avoidance, in terms of reducing the cost of cybersecurity risk. I have some of these numbers from so many organizations like PwC, McKinsey, and you can find so many of these. The end story is that governance, risk, and compliance is one of the important element into this cybersecurity world, where the risks are not just people within your organization, there's geopolitical actors which are working for it. So very, very important area to focus on. Now I'm going to jump into the core capabilities or things that we have added in last couple of months or extended on it. One of the area we invested a lot is in role modeling. Now I'll get into each of these. So first part of the role modeling that we have is birthrights, which is aligned with joiner mover lever lifecycle automation. Basically getting the data from HR systems and based on that providing you entitlement and access, or also known as birthrights. We have role mining capabilities. The role mining is essentially what you can do is we can analyze your IDP. You can analyze the data in your identity provider, whether it's AD, Entry and so on, apply the AI and machine learning model to discover what attribute or what criteria makes you get certain privileges or entitlement. It also identify outliers and entitlement sprawl. The second thing, which was always there in the product, is the declarative rule engine. So you can go there and say, okay, if somebody is in sales and is the manager, will get these entitlements. Or somebody is HR and is the specialist, what entitlement they will get. You can assign security groups, distribution list, Office 365 group, and so on. Basically, you can model the behavior or model the rules within the organization about entitlements. The new thing, which is AI ML based that we added, is peer based entitlement. Now, it's very, very difficult to discover the rules and the tribal knowledge and get them put into the product. Of course, you can do the role mining and get some data, use it as a feed into the declarative engine. But this has been a common challenge with our customer. It takes a lot of time and effort to identify the rules and put those rules in the rule engine. To overcome it, whenever we process an employee, so with peer-based, we process employees, somebody is hired or somebody has a change of role. When these events happen, we are able to look into your data, which is look into your identity and IDP, and identify who are the close matching peers based on the definition you define about the close matching peers, as well as what are your security sensitivity. And then we are able to suggest what entitlements should be assigned. So that's a big feature. And I'm going to show it also on the product, how you can, without defining the rules, so without discovering the rules, you can have the peer-based assignment of entitlement. And this is the cool thing about AI and machine learning, that as you start using features, it starts getting better and better every time to do it. Now, beyond birthright, if I cannot get certain entitlements, but I need them. Maybe they're needed for a project basis. Maybe it's a limited time duration need. I can access those requests. And these requests that I make for the entitlement or access, this is managed through the identity and governance process, which means requests are made, they are approved, and they follow the process so that IDP is aware of it and cataloging it and making sure it is recorded versus somebody creating a ticket and requesting an access and it gets granted without anybody knowing about it. So a lot of improvement on the enhancement on the role modeling and entitlement management part. And then I'm going to get into the details of these. So declarative RBAC engine, it's simple. You define the criteria, you look at employee's profile, look at any number of employee attributes that you get from the HR profile, because declarative engine is being processed while we process the employee, whether it's a joiner, mover, or lever. You can define complex conditions and operators, and the rules will be evaluated. You can define the groups on the fly. There are a lot of features available on the UX itself, so that you can build a very sophisticated rule-based engine to provide the entitlement or to assign entitlement and provision them upon joiner, mover, and lever. Again, the limitation is you have to put the rules and how much rules you know about. You have to discover the rules. The role mining does help discover the rules from your existing data set, and you can put it there. Getting to the interesting one, which is peer-based entitlement. This is where we continuously evaluate the peers or workers being processed using our AI ML model. It will look at the constraint, like what are your, how permissive or how conservative you want to be, how much least privilege, most privilege you want to do. And then you also define the boundaries condition in which we identify the peers. Once the peers are identified and your security posture is taken into consideration, it will be able to make a recommendation as to who the the event being processed, or joiner or mover, whoever it is, when the person is being processed, we will make the recommendation. But since it's non-deterministic AI recommendation, these are not auto applies. The rule based ones, they can be auto applied, or they are most of the time most customers choose them to be auto applied versus running in a supervised mode. But the AI based recommendations are always recommendations. They will go for the approval, and once you approve, they are implemented, or they are persisted to the ID. Now, coming to the new feature, which is beyond birthright, access request. Now, the problem that it solves is not every entitlement access can be determined based on the attribute based criteria. Who I am in the organization defines need to know basis, but my need to know basis may change, or it may be not falling in line with who I am. Things like I have some project, I'm assigned on a project for a temporary basis, or I have a limited time need. In those situations, you or your manager can make the access request, and then access request will follow the workflow approval process as well as the auto provision. Entitlements are always auto provision because we are the identity management platform. The third party access is also auto provision depending upon how it is set up. If it is not fully set up to be automated using the SIM connectors, then it can be fulfilled via ITSM ticket or email request. Now the next question comes. We have covered the birthright. We have covered the birthright. We have covered the access request. We have covered how to give the entitlement and access. Now the next question is, where are the entitlements used in the product, or where are the entitlements used in terms of identity and governance? So entitlements, which are security groups, Microsoft 365 groups, which are very capable, powerful entitlements and distribution list. These can be used for policy management, things like MFA policies, litigation hold policies, in-tune policies. So in-tune policies can be assigned based on your entitlements, as well as policy-driven communication. So there's a communication hub capability where you can make communication which are made to certain people based on who they are. So that's where policy-driven communication come in. In fact, and then other places where entitlements are used is a selective allocation of resources and assets within ITSM integration, where you can create ticket and request the access, request the assets or resources. Then enterprise resources like SharePoint site, team sites, shared mailboxes, network drives, admin privileges, all of these are controlled through the entitlements. And then last but not the least is third-party application access, which is definitely one of the significant area, or where customers want a lot of connectors, and there's a genuine need to control access, or who gets count and provisioning done into third-party systems. Moving on to another new feature that we added is access certification or attestation. Now, this is a requirement. Most cybersecurity certifications require you to do access certification every quarter, 6 month, or a year. Most often it's 6 months, and it's part of the security policy that organization adopt. But anything you follow SOC 2, you follow ISO 27001, or you follow HIPAA or any of the NIST cybersecurity standards. If you follow, access certification is to be done. We help you meet those requirements. Third-party access, as well as all the entitlements, can be reviewed, approved, or remediated. Remediation is important because if you see somebody has something which they should not have, somebody has an entitlement they should not have, those can be, you just check the box, check the red cross there, and the automatic process to remove the entitlement is executed. Similarly, the application the access can also be either automatically removed based on how it is set up on the platform, or it can be done using other mechanism like ITSM tickets or email. Now, good news is, as I said, we have been investing continuing to invest in the product. The continuous access certification based on SOD checks, as well as AI peer-based monitoring, is also on the roadmap. In which case, whenever we identify somebody violates SOD check, or we identify that organization has tightened the policies and what you have today does not meet the policies, or if we see that you are having more privileges or more entitlement beyond your peer group. So you are the outlier. In those cases, it will be a proactive and continuous access certification which will be triggered, which is definitely a great feature that we'll have in the product, because you don't want to wait for 6 months and let the cybersecurity risk sit hidden for 6 months because the time for the access attestation did not come. Observability, and now we are getting into the observability part of it, like looking at the data, managing the data, seeing what is happening beyond the entitlement management that I just talked about. Now, in this regard, we have observability, we have change data capture, as well as we have identity cloud. Observability has been a feature even before, it's been a feature for many years. We, as a product, we have a complete observability of the before and after view of identity, entitlement, and access changes, including what caused it. If there was an event or if there was a JML data that we got from HR and it created a change in the identity, created new entitlements or new access were granted. You can connect all the dots in a timeline view of how it changed, and that is available. You can view it on this dashboard. You can run reports. You can schedule report. You can run analytics, and this is what really means is, instead of sysadmins doing the work, provisioning identity, entitlement, or access, you move from that model to managing it. You let the system that the full automation work, and then you can come here and see what changed. Or you can say on a weekly or daily basis, you get the report from HR as to what changed on the HR side, who joined the company, who left the company, who had change of role or promotions. And then you have this data coming on hire to retire, where you can say, okay, in response to what changed on the HR side, this is what IT did, or this is what hire to retire did for the IT or the identity management. So that's how you can use this. Is a very powerful feature where you can use to manage your processes or manage your JML automation. And the change data capture is important because it captures progressive timeline view of the changes. And there's a full audit train and observability into it. Now, from there, we have Workforce 360, which is another big feature on the governance side. What does it do? What it does is it takes the same data set that we talked about on observability, which is a unified timestamp view of an identity, entitlement, and access changes. But thing that it adds beyond it is not just the changes which are captured happening out of JML automation. It also captures the changes. Let's say somebody made some change to somebody's profile in AD. It will sync it on a daily basis and it will absorb those changes and again provide a full view of what changed, how change, why change. It provides a 360 view of employee worker profile or employee profile across the life cycle changes. It shows you when somebody joined the company, what was their profile. When they moved from this role to another, what was their profile in terms of identity, as well as what was the HR data and what is the access data and entitlement data. And as they go through these changes in the employment life cycle or through the employment cycle, you can see how the identity has been evolving or changing. It provides advanced reporting analytics, including capabilities for incident into investigations, so that you can answer when, how, and why certain things happen. Or if there was an incident and somebody who had certain security group, for example, becomes eligible for that breach, then you can get into the details and ask the question, does he have the access? He or she has the access. When and why he or she got the access. So that provides a lot of capabilities in terms of when you're trying to resolve incidents. Workforce 360 also has audit and compliance reports. And audit and compliance reports is something which most of the customers love to use, because what it does is, with the full change data capture as well as capturing data around the full 360 view of identity, entitlement, access across the employment cycle, we we are well situated to generate the reports and audit needs that are typically, SOC 2, HIPAA, ISO 27001, and others require. So examples are in the review period, who all were hired. Now, when you run this new hire report, it's just not the HR report as to who was hired. It will answer the question who was hired, when were they provisioned? Did they get all the access on the day one? When were they granted access and what access were granted? Was it in line with their role or need to know basis access? Similarly, termination, very sensitive. Was who all were terminated during the review period and was termination immediately effected, which means if today is my last day, mine is a scheduled termination or resignation or voluntary termination, was my access removed at the end of the day? Or if it is immediate termination, was my termination executed timely within some window of opportunity so that the cybersecurity risk were minimized? Similarly, who all were promoted or had change of role? How did the change of role affected their role-based access control, their entitlement? Did need to know basis principle of role-based access control and least privilege implemented? All of data being available with Workforce 360, we are very well situated to have these reports. They're canned report. You just click on, use the template and build it for you. Now, I have covered a lot of stuff. So from here, I'm gonna just not continue to go on the deck, but I'll get into the product and show some of these capabilities on the product. Let me switch my sharing. And as I get into the product, I'm not going to show you the whole product. Like this is, we're going to still focus it on the core things that we tried to cover in the presentation. I'll touch upon all of them as much as I can. So again, although we are talking about governance, access request, access certification, identity cloud, and others, but just like in any identity management, the JML automation is the heart of it. This is where most of the things start. This is where every customer start. This is where the biggest return on the investment comes in. And then we move and mature into the governance, compliance, observability, beyond birthrights, and so on. So I'll start with the GML automation. This is this is any workflow that you'll have to HR, from a HR system to a AD or identity system. This one is from ADP to hybrid AD. And I'll touch upon the items of interest. So for example, we talked about role mining, and we talked about, let me see which window is better. Okay, I'll go with this. So we get to the entitlement management, and here we get to group memberships. Okay, here it is. So if you see here, this is the rule base. So you go in, you define the rule. Department is HR, job title is associate, and of course you have capabilities to update, attribute, supply all kind of conditions, and so on. And then you are able to select what entitlements do I get. You can choose the existing entitlement. You can add new entitlement right from the UX itself. So this is, you define the rule. If you know the rules, you define the rules, you put it in there, and then you have a strict declarative role-based access control. Now, that's where the challenge comes in, because you may not know it, you may have to mine it, you may have to discover the tribal knowledge, and so on. So the AI feature that we have is this is right now is more of a research activity. So you request it, our team is going to run the models, and the output of the models will be the rules. The rules that you can now feed into this declarative table or the rule engine to say what attributes drive what entitlements. It will also give you the outlier. It will say certain people who don't meet the criteria but still have certain groups, and that's your red flags. These are the over entitled people. These are could be toxic entitlements that you have, toxic combination that you may want to work with. So with the role mining that we can do on your IDP, you can get the output of it and you can feed it into your deterministic rule engine. Now, how to feed it? The multiple ways. One thing is you can always type it. People love it because of the user interface. You can, select, and so you don't have to type really the group names and everything. You can select everything and do it. Or you have an import and export feature. You can upload file. You can basically get the data set or the template and then put the data, copy it, and import the file, and your rule engine is set. So that's how you can do the rule mining, as well as you can then use the output of the role mining to build this rule engine for group assignment. The next thing that we covered was AI assisted peer based entitlements. Now, this is where it will look at your peers and see who are the matches when it processes an incoming employee, whether a new joinee or the change of role, and then we'll find the peers, find the best match peers, and then look at their privilege and we'll be able to make a recommendation. How does it make recommendation? It makes recommendation based on these criteria of most probable, least privilege, most privilege, as well as how many of the peers should have this entitlement before. So if you want to say, okay, 50% of the peers that identify have certain privilege, give it to me. Or if you want to be more strict, you can reduce the slider. So that way you provide your security posture, how you want to, uh, I mean, you basically give some input to the recommendation engine as to how strict, how conservative, or how liberal it should be. Then you can also define the peer boundaries. When we search for the peers, you don't want the peer to be searched across the whole organization. Organization may be large, depending upon the size of the organization, setup of the organization. You can choose what defines the boundaries of the peer, and then that will be considered by the engine to apply the to recommend the entitlements, and those entitlements will come to you in the review page because we have this review and approval page, and they will come here for your review. You review what changed, and then after you review it, those changes will be applied versus auto application of the recommendation. Now going back, okay, I went too far back, looks like. No, I'm here, so I can still come here. Now we're gonna get into the access request, the another beyond birthright feature. So let's get to access request. So access request is, something you want application or you want entitlements which are beyond your birthright. That's where you use the access request. You can request access for someone or yourself. You can add entitlements. Good thing, just like in any part of the product, hire to retire product, you don't have to type anything. You can select the groups, you can select the entitlements that you want to provide, and then you can choose them and you can request it. Similarly, you can add application. You can request the application that you want for yourself. Now, this application catalog is to be defined by the admin. So, not you can't just request any application which you want. The administrator of the hire to retire will define what applications are available as part of the catalog, which is part of the configuration that we have. So you choose approvers. So you choose either it's manager or any of the individual, which is application owners or entitlement owners. You also choose which entitlements are available for request. You can select a group or you can exclude some. And then similarly, you choose what is the process or who are the approvers for applications. Fulfillment mechanism, if it is configured through our access provisioner or SIM gateway, auto fulfilled. If not, is what is the mechanism to fulfill the application? Is it through service desk or just send an email to owner? And then the thing that I wanted to show you is that you define the application catalog. You basically say these are the applications that will be available to my company for request. So you have control on that. You can create a request, and then once the request is created, it goes for approval. Once the approver approves it, and you see this request, this is what the approver sees it. And if you see some of the things that who it is, what was requested, as well as there's a time based. So this is very important. Time-based or time duration limited request will say, okay, I get this for 30 days. After 30 days, you don't have to do anything. Nobody has to do anything. A hire to retire will have a recorded scheduled event. After 30 days, that request will be removed, which means if I was granted something, access, that will be removed. If I had entitlement, that will be scheduled to be removed from the system, or you just lose it. And you can also go do it for your employment, which is never an option. So it covers the full scope of access request for the entitlement as well as access. Then I'm going to quickly touch upon where the RBAC is used. We talked about the entitlements and where they're used. So I'll just quickly touch upon the areas, and it is across the product. Policies are at the heart of what we do, and policies is how we drive most of the behavior of the product. So, for example, the policy management. So there's a full section on the policy management. What you can do here is you can use entitlements. You can also use the ABAC criteria, and for example, for the Intune policy management. So whatever Intune policies are defined for your organization, you can assign them based on the, I know there's data is not here on this one, but essentially it follows the group membership as well as attribute based criteria, where you can say who is assigned what Intune policy. Similarly, you can have a MFA policy enforcement for based on whatever the criteria are or whatever are the attributes or the entitlements that are given. Similarly, the litigation hold policy, where you can define attribute based policy for litigation hold, and you can use employee attribute as well as group membership or entitlements to do the policy management. Now, if you go to service desk, this is another area where we have the policy. So, for example, if you're creating a ticket, let's say ticket is created for provisioning hardware, you can apply a policy based on entitlements or based on the attribute as to who gets what assets. So, for example, if you are manager and above, you get certain type of laptop, or you get access to certain application or certain catalog item. So, based on your role, entitlement, or attribute-based policies, attribute-based condition, we can selectively create the ticket. So, another use of entitlements for resource and asset allocation. Then access when we provision or this is our SIM gateway or third party access provisioner. When we provision access to certain systems, there's extensive capabilities to apply policies as to who get this. So, for example, here we are putting the provisioning criteria as to who gets access to Atlassian, and then this policy is defined using combination of security groups that we have. If you meet certain criteria, you meet certain entitlements, then you get this access. Otherwise, this provisioner will work differently for you depending upon the provisioning criteria that you have. And then this is also used, the entitlements are also used to manage the application specific IAM. If some of the application like ServiceNow, Salesforce, and application, they have their own identity and access management capabilities within the product where they have permission sets and groups and so on. The IDP entitlements can control it. So a lot of capabilities on the access provisioning side of things. And then the last but not the least, the communication that is made, the communication hub capabilities where sudden life cycle tight communication is made, or which is templated emails, or using the employees profile data. Now that can also be selectively made. So for example, I'll just pick up an example here. And so you define this email. This email has to be sent, but you can always put a policy saying this kind of email will go, or this kind of notification will go for if it meets certain criteria. So that's where the communication hub capability also takes into entitlements or for the policy definition. And just, I mean, what I'm trying to say is policies are everywhere, and policies are controlled by your role, your entitlement, and your ABAC. Anywhere in the product, anything that you do, you will have an ability to apply the policy, and which is very important, right? That's where the identity, that's where the governance comes in. If you don't have the ability to apply policies, you're not able to do the least privilege, you're not able to do the profile based or need to know basis policies in place and execute it. What is the point of having a governance platform? Now, let me show you another new feature, which is access certification. So, access certification is, yeah, right. So in access certification, just like every 6 months, quarter, whatever is your policy, you can create a new campaign. And when you create a new campaign, you can create a group audit, which means all the entitlements are available whatever is available in your IDP. You have a visual, just a very easy interface to see which one you choose, what entitlements you wanna run a campaign for. You can select all. You don't have to select them, but you have the choice. You will have a start date and due date for that is the period of the review. You can also choose application audit, in which case you will have the scope of which application you want to audit for and who are the owners of the campaign, who are the reviewers, and so on. Just like in access request, the admin has the capability to define the application catalog and the mechanism for remediation. If the reviewer says you should not have access to this application and checks the red box, which I'll show you how to take the next action to remove the access. If it is configured through the SIM gateway, it will be automatically removed. If it is tied with the entitlement, which is then enforced by the, say, Microsoft Entra ID and Enterprise app, we remove the entitlement, and then entry will remove the access. So if it is configured in an automatic fashion, that application will be removed. If it is not, then you can send an email to application owner, or you can create a service test ticket to do it. You define the application catalog, which are the application available for the audit. Now this is an admin activity that you do, and then once you create the campaign, then the campaign is available for the reviewer. So I'll just take an example of a campaign which is in review, for example. So here you can see, you see a long list of employees, and basic takeaways: you have to either click approve or you have to click reject. When you reject, the remediation action takes place. And yes, remediation is most important. What you should not have should be removed. That's a whole goal of the access certification. And as we go along in our product map, you will have the continuous and proactive access certification, which means whenever we identify SOD check violation, whenever we identify some peer is getting more privileged than the risk, then we don't know why. Why is somebody is getting more privileged? There may be valid business reason, may not be. But as the system, it will identify that outlier, and then it will generate a access certification so that the application owner, entitlement owner, and the manager have an opportunity to act on it. And by acting, they can prevent the security risk that might be coming out of it. Or it may be a valid case, in which case they can approve it. It gets recorded who approved it, and you have an audit trail of this risk being reviewed and accepted. So that's access certification. And then let me get into the Workforce 360. So as we were talking, Workforce 360 is a full change data capture of all the changes that Hire to Retire makes in the GML automation for identity, entitlement, and access. We also get the data from IDP, any changes which are made. And as you see here, you see the timeline view of the employee as to how did his or her entitlement and access and HR data changed. You can only see the changes. You can see how the profile changed. You can see how the entitlement changed. You can look at these groups, which groups were added, removed, and retained. So you see a full view of how things are changing. And it's a timeline view, it's a timestamp view, tracked view. So there's one identity centric view. Then you can also have an entitlement centric view where you can look at who is part of this entitlement. And then as you drill down onto it, and there are advanced filters, you can apply filters on any number of attributes. You can also use some of these popular searches and search criteria. Basically, you are able to answer question as to who is the member of this entitlement, when did they get it, why did they get it. And that why did they get it and when did they get it is important from the perspective of investigative analysis. Similar capability exists for access. You can look at who has access to what application, when and why did they get it. The most important feature, which almost everybody loves to use or all the customer uses, are these reports. You have these bunch of canned report, which I talked about, new hire report, all the employees were hired during this review period. Once we were terminated during this review period, change of role or promotion. And it's just not the list of employees, it's how did their identity, how did their entitlement, how did their access change with these during this review period because of being hired, because of being terminated, because of being having a change of role, etc. And these are the common standard reports that most of the cybersecurity standards like SOC 2 or ISO 27001 require. So I think I did cover most of the items that I did try to both you guys in the beginning with my deck and gave you a view of it. I will share the recording. We'll also share the deck. I know deck is easier, better to remember with the screenshots. So I will share both of those. So going back to the presentation, we covered the demo of all the items or all the new features that we have added, a lot of interesting features, and we are continuing to add things on it. Mainly, we are continuing to uh, add capabilities which are driven by the whole industry is adopting AI, machine learning. There's a huge momentum. Technology is becoming easily available. The practices and a lot of capabilities are now easy to use things with like natural language processing and something which I mean I've been in industry long enough. Those things were like very compute intensive, difficult to implement. Now it is very easy to implement, and we are taking advantage of it. So our 18 months product roadmap, as you see, lot of things on continuous, proactive, and intelligent, which means system will act on it. System will be proactive. It will use machine learning and AI, mainly machine learning, because in the space that we operate, helps in the generative side of things, but machine learning is where real value is created. So a lot of machine learning algorithm being put in the access request, access certification, identifying entitlements, which can create risk. That's where we are investing. We're also going to advance our visualization and pattern detection using AI and machine learning algorithm, as well as putting AI-assisted natural language processing capabilities. So you saw our Workforce 360, you saw our observability. Right now, it's a user taking action, making choice, putting some filter, running the queries, versus the ability to send a prompt and get the data. So those capabilities are coming. We're going to have a major enhancement to role mining capabilities. As you saw, it is still a service that you request and you get the data. From there, we're going to move into a model where the models are going to run maybe on a demand basis or on a scheduled basis. They will make the recommendation. Recommendation will be available on the product where you can say, I identified this rule which leads to these entitlement assignment. User will have the capability to say, okay, I like this. I'll accept it. As you accept it, it gets fed into the deterministic rule engine. We are also adding static as well as continuous segregation of duty checks. We are more excited about the continuous and proactive segregation of duty, because the engine using the machine learning and AI will be able to identify based on the way entitlements are given, based on the way peers are getting the entitlements, based on the way access requests are being approved. It will be able to identify that these are the checks that you might consider, or this should be put in as a static check. So proactive, continuous evaluation feeding into the checks that will be implemented by the system. So SOD checks is another big item. I know in some of the regulated industries, more so in Europe, but in US also, there's a lot of focus on the SOD, which is in the roadmap. And then generative AI. A lot of use of generative AI, as we all know, is there for reports, semantic data mapping, entitlement enrichment. When we mine the entitlements, we can generate the description of it, we can generate the name of it, which can be user corrected, and the whole entitlement catalog can be enriched in a continuous ongoing way. So those are the features and capabilities that we're going to add into the product, and that's coming in 18 months roadmap. Just like we achieved one roadmap in Q1, we look forward to having this in next 18 months or so. Now, coming to it, I think I've come to the end of the what I had to show or I had to share with you all. But I'll still open it up with the questions. So if you have any questions, you can ask them or you can put on the chat, and then I can accordingly answer those questions.
Perfect. Great, Ram. We did get a few questions that came in. And for the questions we maybe aren't able to get to today, we will follow up, of course, directly with you to answer those. But to go through a few of those right now, So the first one is going to be, how long is the observability data stored and available online within Hire to Retire?
So observability data is stored minimum of 3 months. When I say minimum of 3 months, what I mean to say is that we will guarantee 3 months, and then when it is purged, depends on the the data, and then we have we have algorithms where we run out of the storage space, and then we selectively we remove the oldest data first. We have been looking at increasing this window, but I don't think there's really much need, because anything that you see on the observability page is captured in the Workforce 360. And Workforce 360 provides a better strategic long-term view of the data, versus observable observe page is more like, okay, something happened, I want to know if HR hired somebody, what happened to them on the identity side.
Great. That actually does lead into the next question, so that's perfect. So, can I get my change of data capture fed to my Power BI?
Of course, that was the original feature we had. I mean,
Yeah.
even a couple of years ago when we started the product, that was the that was the capability we had. So you can push the observed data or the change data capture into any of MySQL, S3, and I think Azure Blob is also there. You can push it to any of these data stores, and these data stores are typically used by Power BI and other platforms. However, I'll tell you one real experience. We did have the capability, but very few people used it. The reason being, there's a lot of effort involved in setting up the data structures on your Power BI on the databases, and then get the data pushed in. And to solve that problem, we added Workforce 360 so that you don't have to do anything. The BI and data warehouse capabilities are available as a core part of the product.
Awesome. And then a question that did come up a few times, it was regarding more of the applications, the third-party applications a lot of the clients are using or customers are looking at. Can a customer ask for a new connector for an application maybe that we don't support right now, specifically with the new updates coming out around like access and things like that?
Yeah, and we all know the answer. Yes,
Yeah.
that has been our strategy to build or grow our application catalog or our application provisioners. We have around a total of, between our native connectors and connectors that come from a Microsoft Enterprise app, it's something like 700. And we every month we keep adding them based on customer request. This is our strategy to, there are thousands, I don't know, thousands or million, what is the right answer? But there are thousands of SaaS applications available today. And it's practically impossible, or not even practically useful, to add every application in the catalog. So the approach we have taken is the application that our customers use. Because if one of our customer uses one application, there's a likelihood that other customer will use it. Because we get the customer in certain sectors, certain type of characteristics to join us. So we definitely value that feedback. We, in fact, as a part of the sales process, we provide a link to all the connectors we have, and they can request that connector, and that goes into the product roadmap. If you want to accelerate it, you can also get it accelerated. But typically, within 6 months window, we are able to add the application that are requested by our paid customers. So yes, very much possible, very much welcome.
Perfect. And then the last question, there are multiple more, which again we'll follow up on, but the last question I wanted to ask was, do you manage contingent or workers or contractor identities within Hire to Retire?
Yes, we do manage contingent workers. If they are available in HR system, very easy, straightforward. If they're not available in HR system, then other contract worker management system, it can push the data to us over the SFTP channel. There's an option to upload an extract onto the platform, or there's even an option to just make a manual entry. Now, there's a very strong use case of contingent worker management, because it's a common problem that somebody comes in on a 90-day SOW, person walks away after 90 days, but even after a year, the person's account may be still active. The person may still have access and entitlement, common problem. Now, the biggest value add we do is when you have a contract worker being managed through Hire to Retire, you have SOW start date, which is the start date of the identity, and then you have SOW end date, which is the termination date. So we create an identity, contractor identity. as soon as we create it, we also create the termination date or termination event so that after 90 days, access is removed, the identity is terminated, unless the SOW has been extended, for which we get another update, which will shift the termination event to execute at a later date. We are also supporting guest users and contacts, which is typical Microsoft Entra ID guest user and contacts, which have like very basic. They are not like the contractors or contingent workers, but they are much less capable entities. But we also support them.
Awesome. Thank you. And there are a few more, but again, we can follow up directly with everyone on those questions. But I think that does wrap it up for today. I do thank everyone for their time, and we hope you enjoy your upcoming 4th of July weekend holiday. And we hope you are going to join us on our next webinar in August.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving a last 45 minute to hour to us. We really appreciate your time. And if there are follow-up questions, you can always reach out to us. You can reach out, just to fill a contact us on our website, and one of us will be in touch with you. And for all of you who joined, we'll send a copy of this presentation as well as the recording will also be shared. And I believe it is also available on YouTube. You can just find and search it. So thank you very much and have a good Friday and enjoy your weekend. Take care.